الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Ask Allah to loosen up my tongue like Moses. Ask Allah to loosen up my tongue like Moses. Let loose my distractions, try to find focus. The dunya's deception, all hocus pocus. So take notice, Allah is our locus. A word to the hopeless. Don't be put off by atrocious approaches. Just try to seek closeness to Ar-Rahim. Lay sacred foundations like Ibrahim. Behind the mask, it's not as it seems. Are you up to the task to grasp what we mean? Living the dream, but the dream's a nightmare. So we spit light that's traveling light years. I might just switch gears on the verse. All praise to the one who created the multiverse. And I am talking about Marvel and Doctor Strange. It's not a curse, but a condition we need to change. It starts with the heart because the heart is vital. Be murids of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, masters, disciples. Take a loaded rifle to idols and titles. Listen to Quranic recitals. So much misery, yet the sermon's silent. No God but God, go tell the tyrant. This tongue is a sword, it's kind of violent. So we turn to Allah and pray for guidance. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أهلك والخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق والهادي إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آل حق قدره ومقداره العظيم. I'd like to thank Mizan Institute for affording us the opportunity to be here this afternoon and for hosting the Itikaf program. Mulana Khalil very kindly afforded me the opportunity to share a couple of poems. This next poem comes from a poetry anthology that I'm putting together and inshallah will be coming out soon, called In the Shade of Tall Trees, a Muslim futurist anthology. The poem is dedicated to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we make dua that Allah accepts it from us and takes it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a humble offering in celebration of his life and his beauty. May Allah send blessings and salutations on the best of creation. He before whom we are rendered silent. He whose tenderness tempered all violence. O wellspring of all love and beauty, most deserving of our loyalty and duty. I cannot write beautiful poems, but in these words, beauty finds a home, for no reason other than I speak of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Rasul, to whom can we plead our case? You've known the depths of our despair and disgrace. Such care, holding those you love in warm embrace. Before you and your noble companions, I'd be out of place. I cannot bear to show my face. But even if I should see you from a distance, I know in that instance that I'd be rendered weak as an infant. So what of the one who quenches their thirst at your hand? Ya Rasul, through whom we have come to understand that you are where the Master's plan all began. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خير.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا وحبيبنا مولانا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا، اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك آمين. أما بعد فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Alhamdulillah, we thank our brother for sharing some of your, Brother Asif, mashallah, for sharing some of your poetry. Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam had a number of poets. Probably the most famous one was Hassan ibn Thabit radiallahu anhu. He said something beautiful. He says, "Ma badahtu Muhammadin bi maqalati." He says, "I have not praised Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam with my words. ولكن مدح مقالتي بمحمد." But because Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's words he is mentioned in my poem, his presence praises my poem. His presence in the poem praises the poem. And as a community, we often don't pay attention to the arts of Islam and the aesthetics of Islam. So the arts and the aesthetics are things of beauty. Things of beauty. So we find that in Islam, the aspect of beauty is essential. Anybody who's ever been to Egypt, Cairo, been to Istanbul, been to Fez in Morocco, you'd find that the Muslim civilization has incredible beauty. When you look at those masajid, those spaces, there's incredible beauty in the space. You look at this masjid even, there's it doesn't look like an ordinary building. Why does it have all these things? Why does it have 4 pillars here? Why does it have arched windows? Why is it rising up in the center? Would we feel different if this masjid was like a normal block, like a classroom? It would feel completely different, even if it's the same size. Because what happens is that beauty, it resonates something. It has an energy. It affects your heart. And the famous hadith is, "Inna Allah Jameel yuhibbul Jamal." But Allah is Al Jameel, the one of all beauty, and He loves Jamal, and He loves beauty. And so within the Muslim civilization, there was a very interesting approach to beauty. Is that in Islamic arts, whether it's going to be within poetry, or whether it's going to be within architecture, or whether it's going to be within calligraphy, as you see on the walls here, there are some pieces of calligraphy, is that the beauty in Islam, it always continues to be an ayah. Meaning what? That the beauty of Islam, it's not a beauty where it distracts your heart. It's almost a beauty that calls your heart towards the truth. It's a beauty that's not itself trying to capture all of you. It's trying to direct you. And therefore you find that within Islam that we have like a sober beauty. Like a sober beauty. Meaning what? That even when it comes to architecture, there's simplicity about the architecture. Even though it might be huge, and if you go to the great masajid, they might be huge, but there's simplicity about them. Courtyard, mihrab, mimbar, like simplicity about them. We look at our calligraphy, as opposed to like the Christian faith. If you've been to a church before, it's very different. If you've been to a church there, it's very ornate. Lots of pictures of their depiction of what they hold to be Nabi Isa. So it's a very different experience. But in the Muslim space, it is much more sober, and it calms and points towards the truth. So the same with also, and also you find that beauty communicates differently. A thing of beauty, it is almost like a caller that is put here forever. So if you build a beautiful masjid, I saw this masjid is built in what was 1901. What does it say on there? 1901, 1905. So just less than 120 years old. If you put up a beautiful building, for 120 years it will emanate beauty. If you put up an ugly building, for 120 years it will push out ugliness or disharmony. So putting things on this earth is important because things don't have no value. They have a community. They have a value. Everything communicates value. And Muslims were very concerned about their spaces. Very concerned. And I would encourage everybody to visit the old cities of Islam. The old cities of in Morocco, a number of old cities in Egypt, in Syria, in Baghdad also. Even within Iran as well, there's some beautiful cities, especially Isfahan. These are all part of the Muslim civilization. Whatever creedal differences there are, but I'm saying in terms of just the civilization. And when you walk into those spaces, you feel different. You walk into those masajid, you feel different. You walk in sometimes even just in the roads, you feel different. Obviously, Palestine as well, in the old city, the Haram Sharif. You feel different in those spaces. And you find that the arts have a power to influence people profoundly. That's why music is so popular. It's something which is popular. People watching little clips of music, little songs, because the art itself can influence. And as a Muslim society, again, if we don't enter that space, we leave the space of the arts to those who don't believe. So therefore you find that, alhamdulillah, in the evening last night, mashallah, we had a beautiful dhikr. That's a form of art. It's the music of voices, of harmony. But the art itself doesn't distract you from Allah Ta'ala, it calls you to Allah Ta'ala. So when it comes to, for example, the art of music, we have the whole world of poetry, the world of an-nasheed. And you find that children, alhamdulillah, good tree for the parents of children, a good tree child is always making salawat, or they're reading dhikr, or they're doing some nasheed, or they're drumming. A good tree child, if you have a good tree child, they'll drum everywhere. They drum on the desk, they drum on the fridge, they drum. You must tell them to stop drumming. Like I have a rule in my house, no drumming at the table when we're eating, because they're always drumming like this. They're making beats. And why? It's because they raised with adhkar and nasheed. They're raised with it. There's drums at the school and we have dhikr all the time. And in their break time, they also to the drum and they'll recite. Because this is part of the fitrah. The fitrah loves beauty. It can't always deal with intellectual concepts the whole day. You know what I mean? Because your mind tires. And your mind just wants to relax in a form of beauty. So that's going to be in the auditory arts. Is the performance of poetry, which is read, as our brother read it now, and music and an-nasheed and all of those things. And I don't want to get into the fiqh discussion, but for me there's also there's called spiritual fiqh. Because obviously the fiqh of music is ikhtilaf on that different positions. But for me there's a spiritual fiqh of music. So what's the spiritual fiqh of music? Is what you're listening to bringing you closer to Allah Ta'ala? And let's say in general, I'm not giving any fatwas, I'm just saying from a spiritual lens, in general, within that wide range of fiqh, in general, if what you're listening to is bringing you closer to Allah Ta'ala, it's something which is good. And generally, something you're listening to is taking you away from Allah Ta'ala, it's not something good. From a spiritual point of view, whatever the fiqh may say, it's important also for us to have our own spiritual compass. I'm not saying you must give fatwa, I'm not saying you must do what you want, just to explain how you navigate ikhtilaf sometimes. Therefore, one day, a man asked the Prophet says something, he says, Istafti qalbak. Seek a fatwa from your heart. And he says that, فَإِنَّ الْحَرَامِ مَا حَاكَ فِي قَلْبِكَ. Something which is haram is something which is going to agitate your heart. You're going to do it, but you're going to feel not good about it. وَكَرِحْتَ أَن يَطَّلِعَ عَلَيْهِ النَّاسِ. And something haram is something that you'll do it, but you'll feel ashamed and you'd rather do it and hide it away. You'd rather hide it away. And halal will be the opposite, is that which brings tranquility to the heart. And so I would encourage that out, and also say, okay, so that is going to be the auditory arts. Then we get the written arts, drawing. And again, there's ikhtilaf, pictures, no pictures, all of those things, no eyes, eyes. There's a spectrum of views within the fiqh. There's a spectrum of views that accommodates many positions. Yeah. The only view that's not accommodated is generally to do with 3D objects, like idols and statues, and there's a kind of agreement. We don't make statues of humans and so on. But when it comes to the pictures, there's a whole range of views. But again, the same thing. Whatever you are drawing or composing, it must be something of beauty. It must be something of beauty, something that which can communicate. And therefore, we have a vast field of especially calligraphy. And not only calligraphy, also we have the art of illumination. Illumination is the art of the color, which colors to add and how to illuminate the letters. And this also communicates some beauty. So this is important for us to revive this, because the soul starved of art is a soul that's living in a barren desert. So you'll find that almost all the great ulama, not all, it's not all, many of the great ulama, they were also poets, including our very own beloved Imam Shafi rahimahullah. He was an amazing poet. He has an anthology of poems like You're Following the Way. Imam Haddad as well. Great poet. They were great poets. And even my own beloved teacher, Malta rahimahullah. He was an amazing poet. He used to say that he learned poetry from Imam Shafi. He learned poetry from Imam Shafi. And he's write beautiful poems. Because why? Within this poetry, you also communicate an emotion. And in a poem, someone tries to express something which is somewhat inexpressible. You're trying to express a condition, but you can't put it into words, so you put it into a poem. And also, just from an Islamic point of view, poems are not always meant to be literal. Meaning what people sometimes say, excessive things in poems, because that's the language of love. So we must also read sometimes poetry through that lens. That poetry is the language of love, so you don't analyze like you analyze a hadith or like a fiqh book, because it's the language of love. You might say, I had 1,000 fathers, but then I met you, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You don't mean you had 1,000, you mean, you with me? It's the language of love, because literally you see this poet here is lying, you're only biologically allowed to have one father. You're like, you don't do that to poetry, you're butchering it. You think this poetry you must read with a different eye. It's the eye of love. So the arts in our community is important. And we should create spaces, because if we don't create spaces for these things, the soul will start to find it somewhere else. They'll find the need for beauty somewhere else, in like the wrong spaces. And you find that when you have the Islamic beauty and that the beauty communicates the truth, that beauty is a power you can't imagine. Like when you sit in a beautiful dhikr, or even the science of qira'ah. Qira'ah is a form of art. When the qari recites and his voice moves you with the kalamullah, it's an art. And therefore the Prophet ﷺ says, Hassinul Qur'ana bi aswatikum. Beautify the Qur'an with your voices. Part of the sunnah. Part of the sunnah is to have a beautiful tune, or to choose those who have beautiful voices to lead and to render the Qur'an. So part of the challenges of our age is that the arts are dominated by people of ghafla, especially within the music industry. It's dominated, and you're listening to it all the time, and the messaging is very unhealthy. It's destructive. It's harmful. And this is the part of the challenges of our age. And the solution is simple. We can't just lament the problems of our age. We have to have some solutions. So the solution is simple. Let's bring our own beauty. And for example, Masha in Cape Town, we have a very proud legacy of recitation of Quran beautifully. It's something which is amazing. And now I saw, for example, I saw a screenshot of someone's status of Khuddamul Islam, and they're going around Cape Town and they're having their uh, like evenings of dhikr and salah. And in the picture, I see it looks almost like thousands of young people, and it's beautiful. Like young people are coming to watch other young people. Hopefully, they're coming for the right reasons, but inshallah, it's Ramadan, so we have Husnudan. I mean, they're coming to watch the performance, not each other. Uh, although, if they're coming to watch each other, also, that's from the fitrah, also. Alhamdulillah. If they're coming to watch the opposite gender, we say Alhamdulillah. That's from the fitrah, also. You make ham for that. You make ham for that, Alhamdulillah. But they're coming, the whole masjid is full, and it's a sign that people love beauty. They're coming, why? Because there are young men rendering the Quran, rendering Anashid in a beautiful manner, and the whole masjid, I saw the picture, it's in Athens Road. The whole masjid was full, the courtyard was full. And something to be proud of, and something to be encouraged. We must encourage the arts amongst our youth, but the arts in the responsible way and the beautiful way that's going to reflect the truth. And this will enrich our society. If we find also in Cape Town, we have a culture of dhikr with like a lagu. You know, every dhikr have its own lagu also. I'm not going to try now. I'm with a lagu guy. Normally they say when you make dhikr, the angels come. But if I make dhikr, the angels are on the way. Just the lagu is not so 100%. Anyway. Yeah. But you know, like if you do like the dhikr, like each piece have its own lagu, its own tune. And it's beautiful. One of the things, especially from our brother from Zambia, yeah, many people, they grow in a society where there's no collective dhikr. Doesn't exist. So to come to Cape Town and you have a dhikr and the whole community recites, it's like from really, it's like, for me, that's like a treasure from the treasures of Jannah. If you come to a gathering and the whole community recites, they just know the tune and they just go into it. And that moment, it's almost like a moment which is like timeless. Because as you recite, you can even picture yourself as a young person reciting this. If you want to feel that, go to another place on Eid. I won't mention the place's name. But they make takbir like this. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. Like, yo. You've been to those places before. Like, you must have Cape Town takbir on Eid. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Even my voice can manage it. You can recognize the tune. MashaAllah. Are you with me? Like, you just hear that. If you must be overseas or another part of this country and you grew up in Cape Town, your heart misses that, because when you hear that, you think about your father going to the masjid. You think about growing up. You think about Qurban. You think about all these emotions coming back. That's the power of art. The power of beauty. So yeah, we're blessed. And Allah decided also for some reason to place a lot of natural beauty here. You know, besides our lovely, okay, I mustn't Cape Town brag now. But you feel it also when you just, wherever you drive, you're like, subhanAllah. You know, you drive there, that beach, subhanAllah. That beach, subhanAllah. West Coast, subhanAllah. Garden Route, subhanAllah. Even Kuru, like, you know, everywhere you go, it's just like, it's overwhelming. Ya Rab, how did you put us in this place, Ya Allah? Go overseas. I remember I studied in Syria for a year. And I drive like an hour. The Arabs are going to show me now their place in the mountains. We drive like for an hour we go. There's a few trees, and there's a big rock, and there's a pipe coming out. And they made like a waterfall. The place is full. Everybody's bragging there and things. You come here, oh, mashallah, okay. Not quite Victoria Falls, but I mean, Bismillah, yeah, it's a taste. What was I gonna do? You don't get so much in one place. These are things that don't underestimate the power of all of these things. Our deen is not only also about, even though we're very busy with classes, mashallah, education, it's not only about just the rational sciences. And even though, mashallah, we're busy with ibadah, it's not only about ibadah. There's also an element of where the soul is affected by the arts. And this arts, whether it's the dhikr, whether it's the poetry, whether it's the calligraphy, whether it's the qira'ah, the arts are affecting our heart all the time. And you can feel the difference when you're in maybe a corporate building with glass and cubicles the whole day, and you go out of there and you enter into a masjid like this, you feel the difference. Because hearts design these buildings. Hearts design these buildings. And beautiful spaces can only be designed by beautiful hearts. Because what's inside will come out. And people who have hearts that are problematic and have diseased or veiled or heedless hearts, they will produce something which is not beauty and call it beauty. And that's the age we live in. Because almost as if beauty is just completely subjective. It's not. What do I mean by it's not subjective? There's an objective element to beauty. Like you come to a beautiful masjid and I ask you if this place is beautiful. If you're a normal human being, you will say yes. And if you go to a grey factory, this place is beautiful, you say no, looks functional and ordinary. You with me? There's an element of objectivity in beauty. And if you seek deeper and deeper and deeper, you realize that the measure of whether something is beautiful is how much it represents and indicates towards Allah. How much it indicates towards Allah. No. If you find I was in Turkey, alhamdulillah, last year. And for those of you who visit Turkey, don't miss the Islamic history and the Islamic culture there. Because sometimes you can miss it completely. You're just going in the hot air balloon and all of that. That's all fine. But there's a rich legacy there. And generally like in the masajid, when you walk in, you find almost like you walk into a masjid from the back, and then you find a huge courtyard that's open air and lots of light. And then you walk into the masjid itself, and generally a bit darker. And if you look out of the windows of most Turkish masajid, you'll find out of the window there's a graveyard normally. They put the graveyard in front. As if as you are praying, you're almost making a journey towards Allah Ta'ala. Coming from this vast light through the doors into the prayer hall, and you can see your resting place. You're going to meet Allah. These are not by accident. These were designed like this. They were designed like this. So, may Allah make us beautiful. And may Allah make us produce beauty. And all the beauty is just an ayah of Allah Ta'ala. It's always an ayah of Allah Ta'ala. Even the idea that, why is the mihrab like that, curved? Not just a flat thing. Because a flat thing is like an idea of stop. But the thing which is curved is like it's inviting you. And it's inviting you from this life into the next life. That curvature is not just for to bounce the sound off. It is also there to invite you, and it's designed like a door. There's a doorway there. Beautiful. No. You'll find sometimes in some of the old masajid, the pulpit has pillars on the side. It has curtains on. Very old masajid you find. The side curtains on. And you find the old imams, they often used to, from the Cape Town Shuyukh, when they go up the pulpit, they put on a scarf So watch some of them. They're normal, and when they go up there, they put up a scarf. It's all part of the symbolism. Because symbolism is when the Imam ascends the pulpit, you don't see his face too much because it's the voice of truth, the voice of objectivity. It's not about the personality anymore. Because the personality of the person has been veiled. You got the scarf on, there are curtains around him. And I'm talking about, you've never seen it before. No. So all of these things are by design. No. In the Turkish masjid, they also have they obviously have next level masjid sizes. And then on each of these pillars, they would have the names of the Khulafa, Abu Bakr and Ali and Uthman and Umar radiallahu anhu. They are the four Khulafa because those are the pillars of Islam. You know, it's all part of the beauty. No. Allah. So why did I mention that? Oh, because of the Asif, mashallah, bless you, Allah increase you. And I would encourage young people to be part of this beauty because their soul needs it. And if you don't give it to them, they're going to end up finding other things beautiful. And those things often have no value. In fact, they're often very harmful, and then that is not very healthy. Subhanallah. And also ourselves also. We often ourselves, even myself, we're not into this, and it's to our own detriment, we're not into the production of art. Whether you do beautiful photography or beautiful sketches or beautiful calligraphy, or you're going to produce something beautiful with your voices. But mashallah, we find, alhamdulillah, the collective dhikr is growing again. Young people are coming into it and flocking to it. Mashallah, especially many of the brothers here I know go to, Sheikh Lant and Brother Shahid on a Thursday at Awal. It's packed. It's packed because people are again looking for that beauty, and that's what people are searching for. So I'll end, inshallah. I came across. I actually didn't read this whole one, to be honest. I must confess. I just read the first few lines. I said, "Okay, Bismillah with this." But it's Alhamdulillah. We had our brother Zain Bika. He came to visit the school recently, and he mentioned to us that he wrote a poem on the Seerah. I didn't hear it before, actually. I still haven't heard it. And so I just Googled the lyrics, and I thought, let me read it because we're doing the Seerah now, but let's do the poem of the Seerah, inshallah, and then you have a quick coverage. So inshallah, I'll read it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll read it with the headings just to help to orientate. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. The poem begins with the age of Jahiliyyah. It had been 600 years since the earth had seen a guide. From the time of the Messiah who had not been crucified. But before he was raised up to Bani Israel, he said, "After me will come whose name will be Ahmad." In the centuries that followed, humankind had gone astray from the message of the prophets and the pure and natural way. They had turned to man-made idols filled with ignorance and pride, taking gods besides Allah so that his oneness was denied. Now we come to the birth of the Prophet. All the weak ones oppressed and many wrongs were seen as right. In the darkness mankind wandered till Allah would send his light. On a blessed day in springtime, in the year called Amul Fil, in the desert town of Mecca was to come the final seal. Abdullah, the Prophet's father, never lived to see his son. Amina was honored by Allah to bear the chosen one. Praised in heaven and on earth, he graced the world that Monday morn. Allah's mercy filled the universe when Muhammad was born. He was the son of Abdullah, who was Abdul Muttalib's son of Hashim, then Abdul Manaf, the brave and handsome one. then Qusay, then Kilab, then Murrah, then Ka'b, then Lu'ay, son of Ghalib, son of Fihr, or Quraysh as they would say. To Adnan, the father of the Arabs, trace his family tree, for it leads to Ibrahim through Ismail, his progeny. So his light was passed from noble loins through a home so chaste and pure. Once it came into the world, it would abide forevermore. As an infant, he suckled by Hanima after birth, turned away by other witnesses. The best of God's creation seemed in front of them helpless. Still a day would come when they would turn to him in their duress. Angels bathed his heart in Zamzam and replaced it in his chest. Those around him knew this blessed child was different from the rest. Raised by Uncle Abu Talib after both his parents died, though an orphan in his early years, Allah was by his side. He protected him and saved him from the evil and the obscene. So trustworthy was he known to be, they called him Al-Amin. Clouds would race to shade him, and the trees would bow down in respect. Those bestowed with sacred inside knew he was the elect. As the prayer of Prophet Abraham and Jesus' good news, he was mentioned in the scriptures of the Christians and the Jews. He was noblest in his lineage, in virtue without peers. He was loved amongst his people till the age of 40 years. While the people worshipped many gods, he knew Allah was one. In a cave, he would pray to Allah, not seen by anyone. Till one night, thereupon came revelation from Allah. Jibreel appeared before him as his heart was filled with awe. Then, enveloped by the angel, he was squeezed for breath, he fought. When the angel said, "Recite," all he replied was, "I cannot." On the third time he was squeezed, he asked, "What shall I recite?" And Allah's eternal words came down, revealed to men that night. As the Prophet left the cave, distressed for home, he made a start. There he found his wife Khadija. Her support consoled his heart. Jibreel would come to him with revelation crystal clear. As Allah's beloved messenger, he had nothing to fear. So first quietly, then openly, the Prophet made his call that the people leave their pagan ways and witness one and all. That there is no God but Allah, by His will alone I speak. He alone is who we worship, and from Him is all aid we seek. You would call the people to Allah and the day and night implore. If you love Allah, then follow me. He'll love you even more. Once the pagans threw some waste on him as he bowed down in prayer. They were laughing while his daughter cried. But he did not despair. For Allah with those people who put all their trust in him, and the Lord was with his Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. One by one the hearts began to turn towards the guiding light, as Islam rescued the downtrodden and gave them their right. Through Bilal, though Bilal was tortured in the sun, Sumayya put to death, still they held tight to their faith, and they would say to their last breath. After losing wife and uncle and the boycott of his clan, after Taif they stoned him, came a gift from Ar-Rahman. As he lay asleep beside the noble Kaaba in the night, he was woken by the angel and then taken up in flight. Riding on Buraq, he made the journey that night called Isra to the city of Jerusalem, to Masjidul Aqsa. There he led the prophets in prayer and chose milk over wine. Then he ascended to the heavens for a trust with the divine. Raised beyond the seventh sky, so many wondrous sights he saw, till he crossed the furthest low tree for his discourse with Allah. Sent back that on that very night, he brought a gift for his ummah. On the next day, Muslims stood with him to pray their first salah. At the time of Hajj, the Prophet shared Islam with every clan. When the truth spread to Medina, the Quraysh devised a plan. As they hatched the plot to kill him, came Allah's divine command for the message to continue. You would have to leave his land. And then he and Abu Bakr left their cherished home en route to Medina for the hijrah with the pagans in pursuit. As they hid inside a cave, one time a pagan almost saw. But what did you think? What do you think of two people when the third one is Allah? While the people were awaiting him, at last the Prophet came. Light and joy filled all Medina. It would never be the same. Then from joining them in brotherhood and leading them in prayer, he made peace between neighbors, teaching them to love and care. When at Badr, they first met Quraysh, the angels came and fought. Then at Uhud, when mistakes were made, some lessons would be taught. They would fight for truth and justice while upholding chivalry. They'd shown strength when they were weak. When strong, they would show clemency. In the battle of the trench, they chose to fight defensively. At the triumph of Holder, they used diplomacy. So the Muslim Ummah grew with every test it survived, till the time to liberate the town of Mecca had arrived. Marching into Mecca, unopposed the Muslims were now strong. When the pagans saw the Prophet, they knew that they had been wrong. For so long they had oppressed him, now they feared he would repay. But he said like Prophet Yusuf, there is no blame on you today. As the idols at the Kaaba fell, he said truth now appears. And the falsehood has but perished. Falsehood always disappears. Then the people came to truth, just as the prophecy foretold. For Allah had sent Muhammad as a mercy to the world. But the day was fast approaching that they all thought was far. First he told his companions that this Hajj would be his last, to adhere to all things that he had taught them in the past. Then when seeing of a traveler, these parting words he gave. When you come next year, you might find just my masjid and my grave. When the time to part came closer, all the hearts were filled with fear. What will happen if he leaves us in this world? There's none more dear. In his final illness, Abu Bakr led the prayer. From his room the Prophet smiled, giving one last look of care. Then as our beloved Prophet lay in Aisha's arms, he spoke, God, you praise and fear Allah in how you treat your servant folk. Then he gazed towards the heavens. Then he gazed towards the heavens and began to say softly, Allahumma gather me in the highest company. And with that the Prophet left this world. The universe shed tears. All the precious time that had been with him had been the best of years. How I wish I'd met the Prophet to touch his soft hands with mine, or to look upon his face from which the prophetic light would shine, or to shield him when the rocks were thrown so they'd hit me instead. But my consolation comes in what Rasulullah had said. While my life was good for you, my death will be good for you too. I'll be shown your deeds, so when I see you sin, I'll pray for you. He said, O people, if you one day face calamity, find your strength by thinking of the pain you felt by losing me. When he missed his brothers, his companions asked, then who are we? Friends, he said, brothers. My brothers never saw me, yet believed in me. If you long to meet the messenger, then patience is the key. At the start of the year after, you will see him finally. He will be the leader of humanity on Judgment Day. After all, he was the messenger when Adam was still clay. When the prophets on that day will only say, Nafsi, Nafsi, he will plead before Allah, crying, My Ummati. He will bow and praise Allah in words no one before has said. He will be granted intercession as he lifts his noble head. He will beg Allah to pardon us, so sinner, don't despair. He won't take his seat in heaven till his joins him there. Allahumma join us with your chosen Prophet that day. When the world is resurrected with the souls in disarray, let us gain his intercession when we take into account. Let us quench our thirst forever when we meet him at his fount. When a man once asked for heaven in the Prophet's company, help me get you this, he told him by prostrating frequently. If we fear that our good deeds are few and sins stacked high above, our last hope is, as he told us, you'll be with the one you love. Because loving is believing, and our faith is not yet whole, till we love him more than parent, child, and every single soul. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. And that's the power of poetry. Poetry has the ability to move hearts a different way. What can I say after that? Allah. Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallam. We long to meet him, and I encourage you to learn about his life and learn about his character and learn about his personality, and it's like you'll fall more and more in love with him the more you read about him. More and more in love. Read the Seerah, read the Shama'il, listen to talks about him. He just grows in beauty and light as you learn more about him. May Allah bless, may Allah accept, and inshallah we look forward to our beloved Shaykh Ismail returning tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala, after the word, to give you some of the reflections of this beautiful poem. And this poem is so beautiful, mashallah. May Allah bless our brother Zain Bika, mashallah. They used his voice for it, Allah's sake. Allah bless him with a beautiful voice, and see how he chose to use it. He chose to use it, calling people towards Allah, towards the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he's now, mashallah, all over him. It's an example of how we can use our gifts for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. And even if I'll end with this, inshallah, it even extends to craft as well. You see this pillow here, there's an element of beauty in it. See this mat here, there's an element of beauty in it. Because we come from a legacy of creating beauty in carpentry, in stonework, in glasswork, in weaving, in everything. And one of the harms of the industrial age is just removing all of that, creating a grey world. So even if you can't sing beautifully and you can't write beautifully, you can create something beautiful. You can create something beautiful. And the more your soul is in touch with Allah Ta'ala, the more beautiful it will be. So even create beauty with your hands, and you'll find in that there's peace. Create a beautiful chair, some beautiful garment created. There's peace in the creation of beauty. We're losing the art of creating beauty. Everything all comes from a factory. There's beauty in the carpenter making this chair by hand, preparing a chair for itikaf. The chair was prepared just for itikaf. There's beauty in it. So be part of this beauty, because in your life, what else are you going to do really? You want a life that you build beauty. So be part of the way of beauty, because it's all the way of Allah. It's all beauty is a reflection, is an ayah. Every beautiful thing is an ayah, ayah, ayah. Allah, Allah, Allah. If you look, Allah, Allah, Allah. And it's beauty all around you, end up in the state of dhikr. This is the way of the believers. May Allah return us to our glory and to our beautiful civilization, where the truth is manifest all around it. نعم. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Our next session will be at 3:15, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallah.